Join us each week for some booze-free banter about life without booze.
If you're entertaining the idea of cutting back your booze by a day, a week, a month, or for the rest of your life, we would love for you to tune in.
Buckle up and come along for a ride that may just change your life. Please note that some of the conversations we have may be triggering. Please reach out to your local support service in Australia. That's Lifeline 131114. Psst, hey, Maso.
Psst, hey, Breeza.
Did you know that Altina is made differently to other non-alc wines?
I did not know this.
Here's a fun fact. Most are made from non-alcoholized wine with concentrated grape juice added. Altina is built from botanicals and contains no added sugar. And you can really taste it, Maso, I reckon.
You really can. I actually really scull them.
But like I have sampled a lot of non-alcoholic wines and they do taste like grape juice. But not Altina.
No
siree.
No siree, Bob.
No siree, Bob. There's been a lot of blood, sweat and tears and passion put into these drinks, from the way they taste to the way they look to everything that Altina is about, and we love Altina.
We absolutely do. Christina's got a PhD in this gear, so she knows her stuff. And do you know what I really love? I've been putting these in my little bag and just sneaking them into places. How is this a thing? We're sneaking non-alcoholic drinks into alcoholic venues. That's weird, but we're doing it.
I did it the other day.
They're the best.
Yeah, well, I went into a pub that I know doesn't have any non-alc drinks, and because they've got beautiful food, so I went for the food, and I popped me Altina in my bag, and I was like, "Oh, can I just have a wine glass?"
Yes.
And they gave me a wine glass. I tip, drink, bang.
Same. I did that with Sanskrit the other day. It was so good. I felt so naughty. I got everyone to look out for the waitress. Still, she's not looking. They don't know.
No, they're too busy doing other stuff.
So thanks, Altina.
Thanks, Altina.
And Breeza.
Yes, Maso.
Before we start the potty, guess what Altina have given all our listeners?
What? Talk to me.
Discount code. It is BFB10, where you're going to get 10% off all Altina range. Do you know where you can find them?
I sure do, Maso. It is www.altinadrinks.com. Remember, BFB10, 10% off, baby. Get around it. Maso.
Breeza.
I think we're going to change it for season 2, aren't we?
Oh, what should we go with?
No, remember we discussed it. We're going to go, mate.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Because we often answer the phone, mate.
Yeah, okay. Do it.
We'll discuss that. We'll take that to the board meeting.
Put it in front of the panel.
Oh, who have we just been bantering on with, Maso? Because we are up and about.
My new crush.
Likewise.
Danni Carr.
Danni Carr.
I quit alcohol. Oh, my God.
What a bloody weapon she is.
Oh, she's so good.
I talk about the potty, but I stumbled across Danni Carr. Would have been this time 12 months ago, Maso, I reckon. It was early days of my sobriety. Or someone else called it Booze Free Versary the other day when I was talking about my soberversary. I love that, Booze Free Versary. But yeah, I stumbled across Danni, and I love her content that she puts out. So her handle is How I Quit Alcohol. And I love everything that she's about. She's raw, she's honest, she's real. She overshares, which we love. And there's no ego. Do you know what I love about her? There's no bloody ego.
Yeah, she's so real, raw, honest, fun. Yeah. Just everything you want. And she took us on a beautiful journey. There was facts, there was story, there was interesting, there was laugh, there was tears. It had the lot. Yeah.
And she's a country gal. Yeah, so she's, already got our heart. She's from Castlemaine, which is only 30 minutes from Bendigo. How do you say it, Maso?
You knew that's what I was going to ask. Because we always get stuck. Do you say castle or castle?
I'm full castle. Is that
Do you say castle or Castlemaine?
Castlemaine. We didn't ask Danni that, did we?
Yeah, we'll circle back on that. We'll get that.
Circle back. What do you say?
Castlemaine.
Yeah.
But do you say Newcastle or Newcastle?
Well, yeah, I think I say both.
The listeners have done their heads
I mix it up.
Yeah. Well, we've done theirs. I have. You have. We have.
You've done your own head in, mate.
Yeah. But do you know, 2 guests that Danni had on her potty is Jason Quinn.
Yes.
And Andy Quinn, both separately. They are from Etch. And they're sponsoring today's ep.
They are sponsoring today's ep. You'll see us, if you're watching us on YouTube, drinking. I love the honey.
Honey.
It's always had my heart, the honey. But there's 6 flavours. They're all bloody awesome.
Yep.
My kids love them.
So you're about to binge down on our episode, Danni's poddy, listening to Andy and Jace while you're smashing back your Etch. Listen to the discount code just from the episode as well. But anyway, here's Danni Carr.
Here's Danni Carr. Let's get amongst it.
Yes.
A big, warm Booze Free Bants welcome to our very special guest, Danni Carr. Welcome, Danni.
Hi.
So good to have you on the Booze Free Bants podcast. In fact, I actually stumbled across you, Danni, through your How I Quit Alcohol podcast. And it was this time 12 months ago when I stopped drinking and I was just binging your poddy. So thank you, because it was so super helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Thank you.
And we'll chat about that a bit later in the poddy, but we're going to throw you straight in the deep end, Danni, and we're going to hear a shame story from you.
You're gonna have shame on me. Geez, I've got many of those. I guess the main shame for me was, there's been lots of things that I've done, like, things that had taken place when I was drunk. But for me, the greatest shame I had was things like not remembering putting my kids to bed, not remembering if I fed my kids the night before. That was the biggest one. It makes me want to cry just saying it. That's probably my greatest shame and the one that I'd feel the most. That's the biggest one for me. Yeah, that's the biggest thorn for me for sure. Is that? I mean, of course, I shat myself at music festivals and all the rest of it. But for me, it's always been how it's affected the people closest to me in my life.
Yeah. And just so you know, you're not alone with that, Danni, because
the shitting yourself at a music festival.
Maso, have you done that? I haven't done that. I've done the shitting myself at a music festival.
Pretty close.
But that was a catalyst for me to stop drinking alcohol, because I woke up one morning and I didn't remember putting my kids to bed. So that was my wake up call. So yeah, it's awful, isn't it, to think of the neglect almost that we've caused to our children.
Yeah, I remember doing things like the quick checklist, like, oh, fuck, where are the kids? And then checking on them and then going down to see if there was like what evidence there was that they'd been fed the night before. Like, fuck, did I feed them last night? Did I brush their teeth when they went to bed? Ari was pretty small then, and like checking that I'd put a new, like a nappy on her and things like that, like just doing that. And that sick feeling you get in your stomach, like, fuck. Yeah. And that, oh God, just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose the only other, the silver lining, I suppose, is kids, like, they don't remember. Like, I know that we punish ourselves a lot, but I'm sure your kids are happy and healthy children, and they've got certain parents.
Well, they are now, but our eldest one, Sunny, she was probably about 7 or 8 when we quit, and she remembers quite like a few things, not a lot, but oh gosh, she's just got this amazing memory too. She remembers every bloody thing.
Damn, that good memory.
Yeah, there's a few things too she'll torture Ash with as well that she'll remember that he did when he was drunk. And Dad, remember when you were drunk that time and you did this, and you just see him just going, oh.
But then it allows you to open up that conversation, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I actually, back in June, I celebrated my 1 year soberversary or booze free versary. Someone said booze free versary. I'm like, that's it. I like that, booze free versary.
I call them a soberversary.
Yeah. I like both of them. But I made up a little video, and I showed the kids, and they said, "Mum, have you had more fun since you've stopped drinking?" Because it was such a fun video of all of us doing stuff together. And I was like, actually, I have. It's different fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. They keep us accountable, don't they, children?
They do.
Thank you for sharing that, Danni. I know that I could see the pain in your face when you were sharing that, so we appreciate that. Now let's get into the poddy. Now, obviously, I've listened to your poddy a lot, Danni, because I said I did binge it. So the tables have turned, and I'm actually going to Danni Carr your ass today. We're going to start off by asking you to tell us, when was your first drink?
Okay. Yeah. Well, my first drink, I was about 13 years old, and got drunk with a group of friends down at an oval. I don't know, what was it? I think it was Fruity Lexia and some Malibu rum. And a lot of things happened that night, which I probably won't talk about in this podcast, but remind me to tell you afterwards. But I'm 13 and like, it's crazy shit.
In Castlemaine? Were you in Castlemaine then?
Yeah. On the Western Oval.
So I reckon I've had darts there.
Really? Oh yeah. We got so drunk and it wasn't good. And and it just led on from there. It was just like, that felt pretty good. And even though we got up to lots of naughty stuff that was a bit regrettable even then, we still, that's what we just started doing every weekend. And that was the thing we did. We'd buy a cask of Fruity Lexia. We'd get one of our friends' siblings to buy it for us. And we'd get stuck into Fruity Lexia and sneak out and drink that, between a couple of us, get smashed. And then usually there'd be a bit left and we'd have the rest on a Sunday with chips and gravy down at the Botanical Gardens or somewhere like that. And that was our weekends. Like for my whole teen years, that's what we did, and it made me feel like I fitted in.
Yeah.
And I guess too, the crazier stuff we did too, and kind of, like pretty shameful stuff. I ended up with some pretty weird kind of sexual stuff as well when you're that age and you're drunk. And it was almost like, I don't know, it was like a badge of honor almost in that small country town, which then became like a shameful thing as well because of, I don't know, just be this thing that you carried around with you throughout your teen years as you got older and that you wished you hadn't done, but you still never put two and two together that it was the alcohol was the cause of it. You blamed yourself.
Totally. I grew up in Bendigo and Maso's Kerrang.
Yeah. Oh, true, right.
Yeah. We
Country
know
girls
that.
as well.
Country girls,
Yeah.
It does start young. Was that with one of your friends you speak about in the poddy, Danni? Who's your good friend that grew up?
Lyndall.
Yeah, was that with Lyndall?
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're both now sober?
Both sober. A few of our friends in that group now are sober. Lyndall went on to, she did the 12-step program. Yeah, it became a real problem for her, daily drinking in the end. And her story's pretty phenomenal story. And now she actually works with me, helping people through our programs.
Oh,
yeah,
amazing. That's awesome.
She's amazing.
Love
she still is in the 12 steps. She's pretty committed to going to her meetings and stuff like that.
Is she still in Castlemaine, Danni?
No, she lives down in Geelong now, but her parents still live there. Yeah, mum still lives there.
Yeah. Do you know you've popped a Fruity Lexia cherry on the podcast? We haven't had it dropped, have we? Everyone's been running through Passion Pop was generally the first one, or the hard liquor like
Johnny
dirty
Walker.
Brown spirits. Yeah, Johnny Walker's been a big one, but Fruity Lexia, you brought it to the poddy, so thanks for that. I forgot it even existed.
I wish I could forget. Disgusting.
Yeah, rancid. So then, as the drinking went on, what did it look like? Can you paint a picture of what your drinking looked like after that time?
Yeah, so it was just throughout my teen years, it was just a whole series of just getting as smashed as you possibly could. Again, like massive blackouts, doing stuff that you regretted the next day and kind of waking up and laughing it off the next day with friends and just keeping on going again and never really having any accountability, just laughing it off, or just, if other friends did something bad, it's like, don't worry about it. You're just pissed. Don't worry about it. And there was a lot of that. So there was never, I don't know, it was just something that we did. It was just the way it was. And so then when we got into our 20s and was getting in relationships and whatnot, it was still kind of going on, but just was becoming more sophisticated, I guess. The Fruity Lexi was, was now bottled wine with a cork sometimes. And
Classy.
And it's just the same stuff, same shit, different decade. Yeah. And it didn't get any better. It got worse, if anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And your hubby, Ash, he's off the gas as well.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys meet?
Ash and I met at do you want the whole story?
Yeah, give it to him.
We're here for it.
Well, he was playing, I was taking actually with some of my friends, we were driving my mum home. She lives in Ilden. And so we were driving up to Eildon and we were going past the St Andrew's pub, which is on the outskirts of Melbourne. And it's just this really cool pub. They have a great market there on the weekends. And we decided, Mum said, let's pull in here. And I don't know why. Yeah, I don't even know why she said that. But we went into the pub and Ash, this guy with dreadlocks, gorgeous looking guy, was sort of set up in the corner of the pub down near the fireplace, playing to kind of nobody. And as we walked in, my mum said, "You're going to marry that guy." I'm like, what? And I was offended too because I was seeing this American guy. And I was like, Mum. And she's like, "You mark my words, you're going to marry that guy." And I'm like, what the fuck? I've got goosebumps even thinking about it. And then, and we ended up chatting to him for a band. I was in a band as well at the time. And so my bass player, he went up and speaking to Ash and got his number for some reason. And I had his number in my wallet and it was there. I kept seeing it all the time. So after we left, I had the number in my wallet and I kept seeing it. And then about a year and a half later, another band I was in got a residency at the Dan O'Connell in Carlton. And the owner of the pub said, "I've got another band on tonight. Come down and bring your posters down while I'm here." I said, "Okay, cool." And then when I walked in, it was Ash and another guy, Lloyd Spiegel, playing. I'm like, "Oh my God, there's that guy." And we got chatting. And I think I went back the next week again to his gig there. And that was it. We got smashed that night and hooked up on the first date.
Yeah.
And then never really, that was it. We just kind of stayed together ever since. And that was like 22 years ago.
Oh,
I love that
story.
How good's your mum? Is she really intuitive? Like,
yeah, she's told my friend once she was pregnant when my friend didn't know. I think Mum said, "Don't," what did she say? It was something like, "Don't eat that or don't drink that." And my friend's like, "Why?" She's like, "Because you're pregnant." She's like, "No, I'm not." And then she turned out she was pregnant. She rang a few weeks later. She goes, "You're fucking mum."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how the universe obviously put you and Ash in the same place a couple of times? It was meant to be.
Yeah, so you talked about partying up together. So what did that party look like for you and Ash? And I know you spoke about it on your podcast about when he was away on tour. What was that like? Partying together, him being away, you partying solo. Tell us about that.
It was really interesting. When we first got together, Ash didn't actually drink much and he was actually a school teacher and he wasn't playing music full time. That came like maybe a year later when he left teaching. And he wasn't much of a drinker. And I remember we'd have like beers in the fridge for ages and but he would drink a lot kind of hanging out with my friends because we were such big drinkers, my friends. And I think for him to have kind of common ground with them, he would drink a lot. And also with my family who are all big drinkers. His family don't drink at all, none of them really. And so it was really different for him to be around these people that would drink so much. But he always had a few drinks to get on stage. And then so I guess I was definitely a bad influence on him. So the more, as our relationship progressed, so did our drinking together. So then it would just, as the years went by and all the touring, he's touring internationally and all the rest of it, it was just a shit show, like so much booze, all the shows, the musicians always typically get given a rider. And so for those people listening and not sure what that is, it's just a whole lot of free booze you get for when you turn up to your show and it's free flowing all night. And so musicians, it's really tough. And that's why a lot of musicians end up with alcohol problems because they are given so much alcohol and it's expected in the music industry. And it's funny, as I've done the podcast, I've realised that it's kind of throughout all industries. And I always just to think it was just the music industry, but it's just full on, like so much booze. And it's one of these jobs where you're expected to be drunk when you turn up. So so he'd be away on tour and he'd be drinking then, like for his shows and whatnot. I'd be drinking because I was lonely at home on my own with the kids. Yeah. And then we'd get back, he'd come home at the end of the tour and then we'd celebrate that he was home. And so we'd get smashed again. And it just never ended. It was just this constant. And for him, there was no stopping. Like for me, sometimes I'd go, "Oh, that's it, I'm having a couple of weeks off," or I'd do "that's it, I'm never drinking again." And that would last a couple of weeks. But for Ash, it was just this constant, keeping on. And it was really tough. And it was all your friends, all your mates, they're all musicians. And it's what we all did together. And some are worse than others, for sure. Some have got it much more under control. But, yeah.
That's temptation.
Like, is there any other industry where booze is acceptable and encouraged? Like, there's no other job. You know, as aviation, you know, you lose your job if you're over the limit or anything, you know, but musicians or art in the arts.
Well, I found that it's
plastered.
Yeah, it's pretty prevalent though, like say in after work drinks on a Friday for, you know, corporate stuff, or there's a lot in the travel industry, I've since found out. Doctors, you know, there's a lot of drinking that goes on. Yeah, it's really interesting actually. I used to think the same. It's really only the music industry, but it's a lot. I'm sure that the music industry and the arts, it is kind of expected. You know, it's the only job where it's okay if you turn up pissed to your job.
Yeah, and I think like even I probably more so meant on the job, like even comedy, you know, they stand up there with their beers or you know, while they're through their set. Whereas, you know, after work drinks, that's kind of yeah,
comedy as well. I went to the Byron Comedy Festival the other night with a friend. I was seeing Lawrence Mooney and he wasn't drinking. I actually wonder if he doesn't drink because he was so sharp, you know, his eyes.
I don't think he does, Danni.
That's interesting. I said to Ash, I bet you he doesn't drink because I could tell by looking at him. But the guy that was on before him, I don't actually remember his name, but he was funny. But he came out with 2 beers and his before photo, like his photo in the program, he was quite good looking, like really chiseled and gorgeous looking guy. And I was like, is that the same guy? Like he was all puffy and his eyes were kind of swimming around in his head a little bit. And he was, he drank two beers in probably the 40 minutes that he was on. And you could tell he was pissed. And I felt really sorry for him. I thought, and a lot of his jokes were around booze. Yeah. And then Lawrence came on and he was just so sharp. His eyes were totally different. Amazing.
Unreal. We actually recently interviewed Ben Lomas, the comedian, and he told us his usual flow of work. He'd be drinking about 8 standard drinks from the time he got to the venue to the time he had finished his stand-up act, and then he'd start drinking. So he'd have 8 standard drinks throughout that evening, and the bartender knew they knew which order to give him the drinks in. I think he started with a beer and he worked his way up to like a vodka slushy or something, I think it was. So, and then, that was just part of it. And then he would actually start drinking for the night when he finished his act at like 10:30 or whatever it was.
Wow.
So that's another industry where it's just there and it's almost expected as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Danni, did you want to touch on, because I think I heard you on a podcast sort of speak about your relationship with Ash and how booze did start to affect that relationship. Do you want to explore that with us?
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, the drunken fights that would happen, you know, like massive fights, huge fights that would carry on into the next day often, because like you'd wake up and I'd feel like, fuck, what happened? I couldn't, but I felt so bad about it. I just thought I'd carry it on, you know, into the next day because I didn't want to admit that I was wrong. But really in hindsight, I'd be like, fuck, yeah, what the fuck was that all about? Or just having these massive fights, couldn't even remember what they were about. And they got just really, really intense and never physical or anything like that, but just horrible fights. And then I was thinking about Ash, like, you drink too much, and sort of blaming him and his drinking and telling him, you've got to do something about your drinking, and not looking at my own either. And just starting to dislike, I started disliking him when he would drink, and I'd start to feel nervous when he would drink because he would end up being the drunkest guy at the party kind of thing. And it just affected us in all sorts of ways. And it got to the point where I decided I was thinking of probably, this is it. I don't want to continue this anymore. But then I thought, well, I can't say that while I'm still drinking. So I thought, a friend of mine, she said, I'm going to take a year off booze. And it was my best friend who I drink a lot, would typically drink a lot with. And I was like, right, that's it. I'm going to do it too. And I thought, I won't make a decision about our relationship till I've done a year sober. I wanted that clarity because we'd have fights and it was terrible, but we still loved each other so much. And, you know, we love our kids and, you know, I didn't want to break the kids' hearts either. So I thought I need to be clear if I'm going to make a decision like this. And then I said to Ash, you know what, I'm going to take a year off booze. And he was like, what? And then he thought about it. He said, you know what, I'm going to do it too. And then we were telling our friend Scott, who's the bass player in the Living End, and his girlfriend Claire, and they both said, fuck yeah, we're in as well. And so we all decided to take this year off together, and we started a group called Club Sober on WhatsApp, because Ash and I were living in Bali and Scott and Claire in Melbourne, and Lisa and Matt, my friend Lisa and her husband, they're in Castlemaine. So, sorry, I'm digressing here. But, so that's how we got started on that. And that was really did spring from this not sure where the relationship was going, but then realising I can't blame him. This is also, I've got a huge part to play in this as well. And so, yeah.
I can really relate to that. I did the exact same thing to Ty. My very recent ex-boyfriend. I used to pin his drinking. I used to have a crack at his drinking all the time, and he would have a crack at mine. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with my drinking at all. Like, I was actually really quite offended. And it's now, in reflection, I feel so disappointed and so shameful, embarrassed that, I played a massive role in that as well. So I can really relate to that. And it's painful to just go, I did that. Yeah, I played a big role there. So
how true is that there too, where we're like sort of pointing the finger at them, but not kind of seeing our drinking for what it is.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned before, Danni, about how Ash's drinking increased when you guys got together, that's the same thing with me and my partner. He's like, he drinks booze, but not as much as he did when we got together. His drinking increased like tenfold because it was my influence.
Yep. We're all pushers.
The feeders.
Yeah, we feeders. Yes. We want everyone along for the party.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, then, can you tell us about, now you'll have to help me out with the date. Was it New Year's Day? Was it 2018 or 19?
2018.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we decided it was around about October that I'd said to Lisa, we're in. And then Scott and Claire probably said, we're in around November or December. And so we decided to set the date for New Year's Eve. And
so whose idea was it, Danni? And
it was my friend Lisa's idea.
Yep. And why was she all of a sudden going?
She just had enough as well. She just wanted to take some time off as well. And so we all decided that's it. And she said New Year's Eve, that's it for me. So New Year's Day.
Yeah, so getting a good New Year's Eve.
So that's what we did. We set the date and we all got together. I did a house swap with our villa in Bali. We swapped with a house in Torquay down on the surf coast in Victoria, and we all had a bit of a party that night down at this house in Torquay. And it's so funny too, because we're kind of expecting it to be this sort of huge night, and it was kind of, I don't know, it was a bit of a anticlimax. It was just like pretty lame. Like shoving these drinks down our faces. And, that's it. And then on New Year's Day, I woke up and thought, oh, fuck. Now I've got to follow through on this. And we told everyone. Put
it out.
Oh, shit. And Ash and Scott had to go. They were playing a gig. They were playing somewhere up near Eildon, I think. And they picked up my dad along the way. And Dad's like, oh, you serious, boy? Are you serious, boys? And they're like, yep. And so they just didn't drink that day. And then I'm like, wow, Ash, that's amazing. You didn't do it. Wow, we're serious here. And then and that was it. And I remember 2 weeks in, it was about 2 weeks in, just thinking, fuck. Why? And just thinking, this is going to be the longest fucking year of my life. But it got better. Yeah. And for the boys, the boys were good. Like early on, they just both said, no, that's it. And just said that they were non-drinkers. Ash had a big show with Jimmy Barnes early on within the first few weeks, and it was at a wine festival, at a winery. And he just said
red flags everywhere.
The rider was out of control. There was bottles of vodka and scotch and all these beautiful wine and Ash's favourite beers. And then Ash is just looking at them and looking at everyone backstage and just feeling like, fuck. And he just had to tell people, oh, no, I don't drink.
How did he, what was his, I suppose, feedback when he had played gigs sober? Like, was it buzzing or was it awkward?
Yeah, instantly really good. Like he was feeling that he was playing a lot better, and the sound engineers and his crew were like, wow, he's like really switched on. And early on, Ash decided to, with all his spare time, he decided to, he's got a whole another story, but he did a lot of practice, a lot of guitar, so much so I was like ready to throw the guitar into the fucking swimming pool, just like doing all these scales all the time. And so his guitar playing improved like unbelievable, like out of sight. And so he was just rocking up and he got really fit. Oh my God, he is hot, but he's looked even hotter.
Got ripped.
One of his things was like, I'm building the body of a superhero. That was his I ams. And so just every day he was just like, all these, like going to the gym, he just got buff and hot and on the guitar. And
Danny's like, ooh.
So he was getting a lot of good feedback, I think, from everyone.
Love that. Yeah. Go Ash. Go Ash.
Yeah.
That's great. Danny.
Yeah.
I didn't build the body of a superhero though. I mean, what the fuck?
But you would have felt good. So I suppose tell us about that first year of sobriety. Like, tell us the warts and all, the good, bad, the ugly of.
Yeah. So like I said, early on was really like, what the fuck? This is fucked. This is going to take forever. And so I'm not going to lie, it wasn't easy, but so I sort of thought early on, okay, I don't want to have this mindset for a whole year. And I really want to do this. I have to do this. And plus I've told everyone, so I'm not turning back on it. So I started a gratitude journal because I remember listening to a few podcasts and things like that and thinking about, retraining your mind. And I thought, well, I've always been a really negative thinker and I really hated myself, especially in the last few years of drinking. I would wake up and I honestly hated myself. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I felt disgusting. I felt embarrassed and ashamed of myself half the time. I just didn't like who I was becoming. And so I thought, I want to change that. I have to change this way of thinking and all sorts of stuff. Like, if someone had said, so sensitive, like if someone had said something to me or had done something that kind of hurt me, I'd be up for days. I couldn't sleep for days, just ruminating on it and really just replaying it. I'd feel sick and not, so I was not in a good place and bad anxiety as well. I really wasn't in a good place mentally. And so I thought, right, I want to change this. This is the first thing that has to change. So I started a really simple gratitude practice of just writing every day what I was grateful for. And I'd do it morning and night. So I'd say what I was grateful for in the day and not just things like, oh, I'm grateful for living in a villa in Bali. It was like really about like things like having a roof over my head and having my kids having good, really basic stuff, electricity that I could turn on at any point, as well as the good stuff. And as I went on, it also became things that were challenging for me. I was becoming grateful for the challenges in life. So I was starting to change the way I was thinking and also over nighttime writing 3 things that I was grateful for from the day, something that I'd done well. And then I thought, well, this is good. So then I started to build myself up a bit. So I'd start to add into the gratitude things that I was grateful for myself or what was good about me. And yeah, it just started to change my confidence. And then it got like, this gets pretty out there. I've got here's my journal. So, I've got the How I Quit Alcohol playbook. Yeah. It was based on this journal. Obviously people can't see this, but it's like this orange, just daggy looking journal that everything I did, that was from my first year of sobriety. And so I'd start adding things into it, like Ash and I started doing our I ams. Like you said, I'm building the body of a superhero. And so things like I am, living my greatest life. I'm a, awesome mom. I'm a great friend. And it sounds kind of wanky, but it really did change the way we saw ourselves and the way we started when we started seeing ourselves differently, we started treating ourselves differently. When you think about yourself in a different way, you start to treat yourself accordingly. And so it was really powerful. And so Scott and Claire started doing the same kind of thing in a different way, but they were also just doing really good stuff. So I know Scott was listening to great stuff all the time, reading great stuff about the mind and how the mind works. So we'd do the same. So we're listening to great stuff. And so there was hard times, but because I was filling it up so much with that stuff, it wasn't so hard. And I put 2 and 2 together pretty early on that this was, and there was no podcast at the time about sobriety. I was listening to AA. I would search up AA podcasts or people from AA meetings. I never did AA. Yeah. I found their stories really inspiring. That's why I started my podcast. And yeah, so that's how we did it, and that's how we did it, and it was really fun. So the challenges were in times when I'd be around my family and they, you know, I always felt kind of on the outer with my family because I'm all my siblings are my half siblings.
Okay.
I was sort of mum and dad's love child, and I always had this great need. I wished I could fit in with them. I never felt like I completely fitted in with them, and I didn't quite belong there. And so it was always a big thing for me to fit in with them. So when I'd see them, oh God, I'd feel this sort of like I just wanted to drink, but I knew it was just to please them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, also certain friends, it was only to please them. I knew it was not about me. It wasn't that I actually wanted to drink. I realized I didn't want to drink, that I was wanting to please other people. And so realizing too that I was such a people pleaser and kind of trying to get rid of that need to people please, which I'm still working on. Believe me, I'm still a people pleaser. But I try to put myself first as much as I can. So that was the hard times when the need to people please would come up, you know, and then just thinking, no. And playing the tape forward. So remembering, if I have this drink to please these people, what's that going to look like for me tomorrow? It's not going to be one drink. It's going to be 7 or 8 drinks. It's going to be me shouting over the top of people, taking over, saying shit stuff, flashing my boobs, you know, doing stuff as well that I thought that I needed to do, like acting in a way that was, you know, living in accordance to these labels that I'd created for myself. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so it was a big learning journey. I tell you what, it was a big learning journey, and being able to see those things, what they really were, and realizing that I didn't have to be that anymore. That's the hardest part, realizing you don't have to be this person that you've created over these decades of drinking.
Well, since you're 13.
Yeah, since I was 13.
That's a lifetime.
And yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, it was tough. The toughest thing for me was absolutely other people. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to unpack that a little bit more with other people? What pushback and things you got from them?
Mostly people would be like, it was always well-intentioned, like, come on, just have one. What's one going to have? Or, fuck, you're a bit of a party pooper now. Or, you know, what happened to the old Danni Carrs, you know? But I think it was all said in jest, but it still got me in a place that was like, oh, and because just my need to be accepted is so strong in me. And that's what my drinking was really built around, was the need to be accepted. I realise that now. Yeah, so that was hard. No one, I'm lucky, like some people I've interviewed on my podcast have had friends completely wipe them, and I didn't have that. So that was lucky. I think it was more my idea of, I don't think it was a bigger deal as what it was in my mind for other people, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's I still have people, like, it's, as I said, it's been over a year now, and I've still got a person that always brings it up.
Right.
Like, I was going to a winery the other day, and they're like, oh, hopefully you'll have a wine, or maybe you should have a wine. And I know, again, it's just, I know he's so proud that I don't drink, but he still has those little cracks, this friend of mine. And I'm just like, it does get you.
Yeah.
And everything you just said then, Danni, that whole learning, that 12 months is, you just learn so much. I know Maso and I have learned so much over the last 12 months. But to have that insight, to know that you were drinking to fit in, that was a part of it. That comes up so often.
Yeah.
I reckon, talking to people, I was the same. I drank. I got blind to fit in.
Yeah. I found that really interesting too. Had you kept drinking, you would have never learnt all of those things. Like, it is so profound and I wish and want this gift for everybody that's drinking, because we never get to know ourselves or look back and reflect upon our own behaviours and grow. And it's such a gift. Well done to you for that. I think it's amazing and something we can all learn through that as well. So thank you. And I think also my latest quote at the moment is, if sobriety was easy, everyone would be doing it. So, and I think it's a really hard thing to delve into sobriety, and that's hard. And when you've got pushback from other people, it's just like, oh, I'm trying to do something really good here, and it's really hard. Give me, lift me up. People just don't know what to do with it, do they?
Yeah, I say to people that I'm working with, if there are people that are really triggering like that, there's nothing wrong with distancing yourself for a while. So I did as well. So the people that I drank with, so I did lose friends, but not in a bad way. I didn't lose them completely, but I don't really see them anymore. So there was a crew here near where we live that we'd always drink with, and I don't really see them anymore. And we never got invited back to their place, funnily, on a weekend. And we were always invited there. And that was hurtful too, because we would always bring the wine and the Coke and all the rest of it. And to not kind of be invited again, it was like, wow, that's really what that relationship was based on. And you think you're such good friends with these people. That was hurtful. Yeah. And I swear, I shit you not. So it's 4.5 years of sobriety for Ash and I, and have never, ever been invited back over to any of their houses again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And then some of the friends that we drank a lot with, I would change it so I don't actually see them much anyway, but if I was going to catch up with them in the early years, it would be I'd go and catch up with them for a walk on the beach or go out for breakfast, just change the way that I did see them. But actually in the end, they kind of petered off anyway. And I think the great thing about sobriety is those people that you kind of avoid because they weren't big drinkers, or perhaps they didn't drink, I'd always think, oh, they're boring, batshit, I'm not going to hang out with them. Yes. They're the people that I've ended up gravitating towards now. And they're the people that I love so much because they're so real. They're not relying on it. Oh, God, I love them so much.
The
I've been so blessed.
You have, the deep conversations you have, instead of those surface level conversations that you just repeat and the same jokes come out every time, you're just having these, amazing conversations.
Wholesome.
And that's right. And they're actually people I find that I can really depend upon. Yeah. If the shit hits the fan, they're there. It's not based around just getting smashed together. It's real. It's much more real. And I just am so grateful for those friends and the new friends that I continue to make in sobriety. Like, they're just so beautiful. I'm so grateful. But I would have been completely shut off to those people before.
Yeah. And sorry, mate, I'm just going to chime in with one more question.
Go for gold.
Back in 2018, there wouldn't have been a strong sober community like there is now. Like, how did you find your people, Danni?
Well, like I said, so because of that group that we'd formed with Scott and Claire, and Lisa and Matt only lasted 3 months, but bless them. At least they gave it a crack.
I had a crack, that's it.
Well, they still, anyway, so we hung out and spoke to those guys probably the most. Okay. And then we probably went a little more inward, a lot more family time. And that was really nice though too, just hanging out with the family and picnics with the kids and out for dinner with the kids and lots of movies at home.
Yeah.
It was actually really nice.
Yeah.
I think with sobriety, I'll just say this, it's really important how you see that time off. Even if you're doing 3 months off or 12 months or you decide this is it forever, it's all about your mindset. So this is what I learned in my journey is if I go in this with this feeling of, oh, this is shit, oh, this is fucked, oh, I'm going to miss out, blah, 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 you're going to have a shit of a time.
Yep.
It's going to suck balls and you probably won't get very far, or you'll just white knuckle it until, But if you go into it with the mindset of this is amazing, look what I'm doing for myself, I get to change I get to create a new me. I get to really spend quality time with people that are important to me. And this is so beautiful. What a beautiful gift. Then it changes everything. Ash was the same. Like he just thought his whole motto is decide it's easy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a ripper.
Yeah. Yes. Decide it's easy. And if you decide it's easy, it is easy. And it is easy. All you have to do is not drink. The hard part is doing the emotional work, the reason why you drink, right?
You put some cracking posts up on our Instagram, Danni. They seem to hit me just at the right time about the whole emotion thing because no one warned me about the emotions, and that's the hardest part. I was like, oh, my God, how do I get through these emotions? And what are these emotions that I'm feeling?
Right.
Breeza knew was previously dousing them in booze, but Breeza was the same with your first go at sobriety in Dry July. About you hating it.
I did a month. It would have been, I reckon 2018 it was. I did Dry July and I was just like, oh, shit. I was just hating it. And I shit you not, on the 1st of August, I had a bottle of Verve in the office and I cracked it at 10 o'clock in the morning. As this whole like, oh my God, we got through it. Woo! Like, let's just douse ourselves and have a glass. Like that's how, shit at what, like stupid it was. So mindset, like you hit the nail on the head, Danni. Mindset is just
I remember the same. Well, even through our year of sobriety, we knew what we were going to drink at the end of the year. We were going to go to Canada for a white Christmas, and we're like, right, this is the wine we're going to get. This is the tequila we're going to get. It was all kind of, and then it was funny. Even though we'd done all this work, it wasn't until like 2 weeks before the end of that year we were still drinking. We were still going to be drinking come the end of that year, and I just felt so good. I felt so good, and I was able to understand now in my brain that it was alcohol that was causing all the issues. It wasn't me. It was the effect the alcohol was having on me. So I said to Ash, I don't think I'm going to drink again. I don't think I want to do it anymore. And he's like, wow, okay. And then he went off and thought about it. He came back. He said, me either. I think that's it. I'm like, and even that, just to say it out loud was like, whoa. And then we rang Scott and Claire. And then Scott's like, no fucking way, I'm not going back either. And so it's like, wow, yay. And so it was really nice having that, even if it was just those guys, just to have them on board as well, to say we're not doing it either. It just made us feel really strong in our decision too. And so, but yes, that's what I was going to say, even though we'd done the groundwork, we were fully planning on doing, getting back into it. And same as you, Breeza, like I'd done dry July here or, January, and got fucking hammered the day after that month was up. Yeah. Well, I used to do a thing called Much As You Like Day. And so I'd have a month off, like all junk food, all alcohol. And then I'd end it with Much As You Like Day. It was you could have as much as you like. And so there'd be like chicken twisties and wine and, all the bad food on Much As You Like Day.
Oh.
And fuck now. Yeah. Yeah, anyway.
That's funny. Chicken twisties. What a blast from the past. How funny. We've kind of actually summed that up, because the next question I had was you did the year with sobriety, and then what was next? So you kind of summed that up, but can you delve on that more? Like you got to that point, and I love Club Sober. Did you get tattoos, all of you?
No, we should have. Maybe I'll ask them. Yeah, we should.
Yeah. So did you know from that point that was it, you were done forever?
Yeah, pretty much. And I was still scared. I was still worried about, wow, what's this going to mean for me a whole year without alcohol? It was little things like, oh, what if like my niece gets married and I can't have a champagne at her wedding? It's funny, the things, or saying to Ash, oh, what about sitting and having a glass of red in front of the fire? And it's like, why can't I just have a cup of tea?
Yeah. My latest one, Danni, is when my daughter turns 18.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I've realised too, you can still be there celebrating the 18th. You could still be there at the niece's wedding or be in front of the fire. It's all the elements are there. You're just not smashing yourself. So we just have a glass of, like a cup of tea instead, or a hot chocolate, or, something else that, it's, and just enjoying the moment for what it is and not worrying about the alcohol. And now I don't even think about alcohol. We don't even think about it anymore. Yeah. Recently, my dad passed away last year, and that was the only time in years too that I'd had a real craving for alcohol. Like I could almost taste the alcohol in my mouth, and it was just me wanting to escape from the grief. And I just had to own it. I just had to sit there, and there was no fucking way I was going to go to the bottle shop, mainly because I've got so much accountability now because the podcast, the people I work with, like, fuck. So I just had to get into bed and curl up and have a good cry and just get through it. And it's much better for your grief as well to actually feel into your grief rather than go and drink. So so I think I've digressed again. But,
we often talk about that mood changer. Maso was talking about it a few eps ago, just saying she just wants a mood changer. But you haven't gone there, have you, Maso?
No, I haven't. I've entertained it. I was entertaining edibles. I was thinking of anything I was feeling everything was a bit beige. Still wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. But I just wanted a high or something.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
To take the edge off, I guess, because I was going through some grief as well. And we're going to circle back and talk about your dad in a minute, if that's okay. But one thing that you said in that about not drinking, Andy from Etch said it the other day. She goes, I'm drinking, but just not with alcohol.
Yeah.
Love that. It's just short and sharp, bang. So talking about Andy and Etch.
I know. I've been drinking, excuse me. I've been drinking honey Etch honey. I know you and Ash are a fan too, Danny, of Etch.
That's what I just ordered. I just ordered a whole box of those, the honey one. Yum.
Oh, nice. Yes, we should have waited because we have a discount code. So you should have waited, Danny.
I should have waited, damn it.
Have to buy another one. But Etch were actually my very first non-alcoholic drink that I ordered online. Were they, Maso?
Yeah.
And in fact, I reckon that's how I stumbled across your poddy, Andy, because I was following Hello Sunday Morning, and I think Jason, that's right. I ordered Etch, and then Andy contacted me and just said, here's Jason's story, because he'd written about it on Hello Sunday Morning, which I think there was a then link to your podcast. So that's how I came across How I Quit Alcohol. And then, obviously then I did a deep dive into Etch and love everything about Etch.
Yeah.
Love.
Such beautiful people.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
And obviously Jason's got his own story, and that's how Etch was born, because of his own problems with alcohol. So he got off alcohol, saw a gap in the market, and Andy and Jace have, I think it's like 22 decades of experience in the wine industry. So they know their stuff when it comes to beverages, and they've thought of everything when it comes to Etch. I just love how it is all from sustainably farmed Australian native fruits and herbs.
Yes. And Etch is the acronym for Every Time Choose Health. We absolutely love that. They're just amazing people, and we love having their support here on the poddy as well. So get around them. What's the discount code, Breeza?
The code is BFB25, and it gives you 25% off the bottles. So the 275ml bottles.
What?
I know.
Should have waited.
It expires, that discount code again is BFB25. It expires on the 31st of July, and their website is, where have I got their website? www.etchsparkling.com.au. So thank you, Andy and Jace. And I loved your episode you did with Andy, Danny. We actually also had her on the poddy. So I think that's such an important part of this whole alcohol story, is to share. Look at you, Maso. What's going on with the light?
I know. The sun's coming through this blind.
Getting your vitamin D in.
How's that?
I think that's a really important
hour.
side of it, is to share people who are in that support role, because often they suffer in silence as well. So I love that chat.
I got a lot of feedback from that episode because there's so many people who are struggling to support a loved one. And I loved her take on it, how she just really loved him through it.
Yep. Amazing.
Yes.
We got so emotional with that recording with Andy, didn't we, Maso?
Didn't we? Yeah. And the other thing that I just wanted to add about Etch as well is that it doesn't replicate alcohol, so it's good for everyone. Yeah. So it's a nice
great point, Maso. In fact, my kids love Etch, and they
my daughter steals mine. So annoyed.
And my son was drinking it. He was just cruising around at a friend's house drinking Etch. And isn't it funny? One of the other kids said, "Are you drinking beer?" Because I think because the bottle is an adult looking bottle. That's probably the only, similarity to alcohol, is the bottle is a beautiful, classy bottle. But I think it was the way he's drinking. He was just sort of necking it, walking around this party. But yeah, we love that it doesn't imitate alcohol, because, alcohol-free drinks can be triggering, as we know, for some people.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them can be really sugary, but these haven't got any refined sugars or artificial sugars or preservatives, and no colours. So it is. And
what's your favourite flavour, Danny?
That one, the honey one.
Honey, yes.
Honey. Get on the honey baby.
Yeah,
get on the honey.
Get on it. Get on that discount code.
Get on it. So Danny, take us to when, how, why, How I Quit Alcohol was born, because we love it.
So I was walking on the beach one day, and I just had this. Ash had a podcast. His podcast, which he hasn't done for ages, he's got to get back on that. It's called Soulful Conversations, and I was like, you should do an episode about how you quit drinking. And he's like, I don't know, we're sort of talking about it. And I said, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. Because also we'd had a lot of people contacting us asking, that heard through, like within the music industry, that we had quit alcohol. And so a lot of people were asking how we did it. And then just friends like, how the fuck did you guys do it? Like, kind of more like, not just how did you do it, like, how did you do it? Because we were pretty bad. And so I just said, well, fuck it. I'm going to record a podcast and just and put it out there just to say how we did it. And so I did that and just shared it with some friends, and it just like kind of spread really quickly. And then I thought, well, I'll interview Scott and Claire as well about that. And then it just kind of kept going. And then Lyndall, my friend who was in the 12 steps, as I said, and then another friend of ours. And it kind of just went from there. It kind of grew organically and just grew really quickly. And just a lot of feedback from people just saying, wow, this is helping me so much. So I thought, well, this is cool. I'll keep on doing it and keep spreading the word. So I'm up to nearly 100 episodes now.
Congratulations.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And just the amount of feedback you get, and you guys would be the same, just like people, like I got a message from someone from Colorado today, and every day, like so many messages, like the podcast has helped me so much, mainly, and I'm not big upping myself here, but more the guests that share their stories, which help people feel,
they're so relatable.
Right, that sounds like my story.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. And they don't feel so shamed.
Yes.
And they feel like that someone else out there is the same story as them, you know, that they can perhaps do it as well.
I cried, and I can't think of your guest's name. He was an older fella, muso, rough around the edges. Can't remember his name. He had a nickname.
Hat Fits.
Yep.
Yeah.
I cried during that one.
Yeah.
All your episodes have had a huge impact on me. So thank you.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, the Hat Fits one was great. And it's funny because he's such a funny character. He was, I couldn't even really, like, he was such a pisshead. Like, he would shit in people's tents at music festivals, and he was so bad. And he looks like Ned Kelly too. So it's almost like you'd be a bit scared of him because he's huge and big beard and steely blue eyes and running around just pissed, like just so pissed and so out there. And wow, that's another one too where we thought early on, fuck, if he could do it, you know, we could do it, because he was full on. When we heard that he'd stopped drinking, we were firstly also relieved for him, but also wondering, God, what's he going to be like? Because that was so much his persona, was to be this drunken guy.
Mad cunt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find like there was another bloke you had on, and I can't remember his name. He was a sort of spiritual dude, and he had a really sad story. But I find when the blokes share their story, because they're being so vulnerable, and they're these, you know, men that are just putting it all out there, they really get to me.
Yeah, me too.
It's so important that they share their stories, and it gives all the other blokes permission to just, you know, look inwards, and it's life-changing. Your podcast is life-changing, Danni. So thank you so much for
thank you. Yeah. As I'm sure this one is too. I agree too, like when the men get really vulnerable and share their stories, and they're usually kind of fairly blokey type blokes that I tend to get on, who just tradies, or, you know, also, and just when they just share and they're so vulnerable and talk about stuff that, you know, that they wish they could change, or stuff that they've been through, and it's so powerful.
Lost. Like one of them, I think, was sleeping on a couch, like just all that. You just heart breaks for them.
Yeah. I had one guy that was sleeping in the sand dunes.
Oh.
He was a model, and he's also a pro surfer, and he just he was like with Elle Macpherson at one stage for a while. They were dating, and just this fully glamorous life, and ended up homeless on the streets, living in the sand dunes at Byron, just completely just lost everything. And, you know, geez, that was heartbreaking too.
And no one wants sand in your bum crack. That's no good.
No. It always seems nice, the idea of going to the beach and sleeping there, but it's actually
in reality, it's
sand in your ears. Yeah, it's no good.
Oh, well, we were going to circle back around to talk about your beautiful dad. So on July 21st, your dear darling dad, John, passed away. I'm so sorry. May he rest in peace.
Thank you.
Can you talk us through that grief journey without booze? If you're comfortable, we're hugging you right now.
Thank you. Beautiful dad. That was a huge one. You know, he came up here for a while to stay with us. He and Mum, he decided to not do traditional treatment. He had lung cancer. He got given 3 months to live, and it was shocking. And that's when we came home from Bali. I just said, I've got to go. I have to go. So we packed up and left, I think, the next day. so that I could come here and be with him. Anyway, and so he decided he wasn't going to do that, and he was going to come up here, and we actually got him on cannabis oil and no sugar. That meant no alcohol for him. And Dad had he drank every day, but not much. I never really saw him drunk. I think once Ash got him really drunk. And so and then he got himself into remission for like 2.5 years, and no one could believe it. Wow. Like no one could believe it. And that was just incredible. Like his oncologist was just like, what the hell? Every time he saw Dad, he's like, you should be in dead age. I've never seen this. He had a really aggressive small cell lung cancer. So when it came back, that was a real shock. And it was just like, whoa, oh my God. And it had spread to his brain and everywhere else. And we got told that this is for real. He's definitely only got a few months to live. So we packed up here, went and stayed down in Eildon, homeschooled the kids. We got a house down there. And wow, what a journey. Like he declined pretty quickly, but it was such a beautiful experience to go through. My sisters and I just with him, and no one really drank much around the time on. I certainly didn't. And I didn't feel the need to drink. I was just so there for him. I was just there to be of service to him and to help him through this journey. And it was such a privilege, to be with him and nurse him. And then, right at the end, I talked about this the other day on the podcast with a friend who's a death walker. And at the end, when he did pass, the day he passed, we kept Dad at home. And for about 10 hours, and this sounds a bit weird, but all my siblings who are all big drinkers, except for one of them, we all just had Dad at home. We all got in bed with him. My brother was like, I don't want to see Dad, but he ended up in bed with Dad, kissing him and cuddling him. It was so beautiful. And no one drank. No one drank a single drop that day. And we listened to Neil Diamond. Dad loved Hot August Night. And that was our big family drinking times too, listening to Hot August Night and drinking. And we listened to that and just honoured him. It was so beautiful. And I just was so grateful that no one was drinking that day. And like I said, that the grief was so huge, but in being able to be with him in that way and to be in bed with him, to honour his body and to go through the whole process with him. I was actually with him when he passed as well. I was holding his hand, which was just gorgeous. I don't know, just to feel the feelings of it all, to really feel it. And grief is so beautiful. It's such an expression of love. If we don't love, we don't grieve, and we don't grieve if we don't love too. So I really did try and honour that, and I never tried to push it away. And I would say that with we lost your Breeza.
Yeah, no, I'm just wiping my tears. You got real emotional, Danni. So, and my whole thing with alcohol and when I work with people is to feel your feelings. And so when they come up, to really feel them. And so this grief was so potent that I just sat with it, and I actually quite loved it. I know that sounds really weird, but I love my dad so much and I miss him every day. I start crying. And that's hard. But if I didn't, I'm so grateful for that love, and I'm grateful for the relationship that we had. And I'm so grateful to have been there and be so present with him as he declined and as he passed over into his next journey, that I got to do that with him completely sober. And I tell you what, if I'd have been drinking, I would have been smashed the whole time and making it a bit of a party. But what we made was, with my siblings, was this beautiful, peaceful place for him to go. Ash would sing him music every day, had candles on. It was the most beautiful passing, I think. And even when he passed, there was no pain. He was still on his cannabis oil too at the end. He wasn't in pain. He just wasn't in pain. And the doctors kept saying he should be in so much pain, but it was just so beautiful. And like I said, it was when I came home, I think there was that one day where I actually went to the loo, and I just had this boom, it just hit me like, just drink, go. And I could taste the wine almost in my mouth. And it was so strong. Everything in me wanted to go to the bottle shop, because I just, in all that honouring of the grief and all that kind of being there, and the feelings were so big, I just wanted it out. Yeah. I just didn't want to feel it for a bit.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I was talking about before, wanting that mood changer. You need something just to like reset or something.
Yeah, yes. It's like anything, like just get me out of this. And I just knew that I couldn't, and I think those really big shifts to those big emotional moments, you just have to honor it. You just have to be with it. So I just got myself into bed and just wrapped myself up in my blankets and just bawled. I put on Hot August Night.
Oh.
And I just, and I got through it. And then the next day I woke up and I was so grateful that I didn't drink. And I shared it also with my group, you know, let them know. And because I think that was the real win. I think that's nothing to be ashamed of. For me, it was the real win. Just huge. And I also started a grief journal. I don't know where it is, but I write letters to Dad, and I write letters when I'm feeling really overwhelmed. So I'll write to him in this journal and tell him how much what I'm going through. Yeah,
I was actually. You've really got to.
Yeah, I know. I should have bought the Kleenex. I was following you, Danni, on Instagram when you're going through your grief journey. And I was thinking, how the fuck is she doing this without booze? Like, I just thought I couldn't do it. I was probably only a few months into my sobriety then. And I was like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, and I haven't, you know, thankfully had to go on a grief journey over the last 12 months, like different grief, but not a death of a loved one, especially, you know, a parent. Just intense. Like I just like, how have you done it? Like, because you just associate grief with dousing it with booze.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm so glad I didn't. Yeah. And the ceremony can be different, you know, like I said, we created this beautiful, beautiful place. And if some of my siblings were up there towards the end and they were drinking, they kind of stayed out of the room. It was like we made this sacred space for Dad in his bedroom. Yeah. It was so beautiful. I remember just cracking it if Mum would come in and turn the lights on or turn the news on, or get it off, get out. Wouldn't let people talk loudly in the room. It was very sacred. And also that when he had passed, in that sacred space we made around him, with him, you know, having him there at home was just so beautiful, so precious. Oh God, it was the most amazing thing to do. And that was such a big part of my journey. And I'm so proud of myself that I didn't drink my way through that, because I never thought I'd ever cope with losing my dad, because we're so close. And he, you know, he was everything to me. And I always said to Ash, like, no one will ever love me like my dad.
Oh,
he's like, I do. I'm like, no, your face doesn't light up when I walk in the room.
Oh, how beautiful. It's almost like that was your parting gift to him. And you often hear that people who are in palliative care, they wait till everyone's gone and then they pass. But obviously the space you had created for him, he felt so comfortable to pass with you in the room, with you by his side. So that says a lot.
Yeah, it's funny that the morning that he went, I was at home and I was tired and emotionally exhausted, and I wasn't actually going to go up there that day. And I messaged Mum and said, I think I'll come up later in the day, but something in me just said, no, go up there now. I was like, okay. And I'm just so in tune with my body and my instincts. I just won't question it. I went up there and there was no one around. My other sisters were there, and they actually walked out of the room. And when it happened, and it was just Dad and I, and then Mum walked in. And so it's just my mum and myself and my other sisters, and it happened quite quickly, so we didn't even have time to call them in, but it was just perfect.
Yeah.
I think it was just so perfect. And I don't think Dad would have wanted anyone else there. I don't mean to say that in a bad way, but it was just so beautiful, you know, when it happened. But geez, again, I'm just so glad. I'm so glad I didn't drink through it, because I think I'd be in a much different headspace with it all now. If I had drunk my way through that grief, I think I'd be really fucked up now, and I certainly wouldn't have got on with my life, you know, and just honoured him. I still do, you know, every sunrise I go down to the beach every morning, watch the sunrise, and my dad's in that sunrise every morning. And that was part of my grieving too, and still is. It's not even been a year yet. It's almost a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have been a mess, honestly. So I'm so grateful to have done that sober and made it such a beautiful journey.
Gorgeous.
Wow. I'm a mess now.
I know. I was about to say, are you okay, mate? So I could see you.
I know.
Struggling a bit.
Yeah, like I'm super, super close with my dad as well. Like, and when you spoke about no one will ever love you like your dad will, like that got me good. And I think that is such a beautiful. I'm really moved by his passing and the way that you created that sacred space. I want that for my dad as well. And can you tell me, did you say death walker or deaf walker? And can
death walker.
Tell me what that, can you unpack that? I don't know what that
is. So I've got a few friends. There's a woman up here. She's an elder in this community, Zenith Virago. She's an amazing woman, and she started the Natural Death Care Centre of Australia. She's a friend of mine. I've done the vagina conversations and vagina monologues with her. And so I had a good relationship with her, and she is a death walker. And so basically she's got this whole amazing story, but she basically assists families through that journey of death. So she'll be there for the family during the process and then helps facilitate the ceremony and everything afterwards. And also because a lot of this gets handed over to funeral directors, we don't do things, a lot of us don't realise what is actually possible, and also the expense that's created around funerals and death and dying isn't actually that necessary. So she, her website, I think you could have to Google the Natural Death Care Centre of Australia. She's actually got her last training, Zenith has got Death Walker training. It's in Melbourne. The last one's coming up in August, her final one that she's ever doing. And I'd recommend anyone to do that, even if you don't want to be a death walker. But if she's just such an amazing human. That I'm actually thinking about going down and doing her training just because she's just amazing. Anyway, so yeah, she's a death walker. And then so she's trained a lot of people to do that. And just recently I had Hayley Halloran. She's sort of like Zenith's understudy, and she's a death walker as well. And so we talked about that. It was about 2 episodes ago on this same stuff. And it's such there's so much in death that we don't realise. Like even the fact you can keep them at home. You can keep them at home for 3 days. A lot of us don't even realise that. It sounds morbid, but it's in Māori culture, that's what they do. They keep them home for 3 days before the funeral.
I love this.
It's so amazing to be able to, and it settles it in your nervous system. You know, I could talk about this all day because I'm so passionate about it because of this experience we had. Like I said, my brother was like, I don't want to see Dad passed, but I just want to come and see my sisters. And like I said, he ended up in bed with him and just kissing him so much and loving him. And he called me later and he said, that was the best thing I've ever done. And he said, I was so scared of it. He said, that was honestly the best thing I've ever done, because we washed him as well. We got lavender water and we washed him and honoured each part of his body, and all these ceremonial things you can do that just come out of your own heart. That you
I'm all about this.
Yeah, you should check out Zenith.
I will. Yeah. This is amazing. Thank you.
You should check out her training if there's any spots left, because she honestly is such an amazing human.
I love this.
I'm actually reading a book at the moment. It's a fiction book, but the main character is a death doula. So I'd imagine
that's what it is. Yeah, death walker, death doula. Yeah.
And before I move on to our final question, Danni, I feel like you need to write a book about that whole journey, that whole grief journey, and how to honour someone in their final few days like that. That would be such an amazing resource or tool for someone who is, caring someone who's
I did start writing something after Dad just to get it all out. Like I said, my journal entry, I should probably put it up as a blog or something, which I did go in pretty deep into what we did, and just also so I could remember what we did, because a lot of it's a bit of a blur when you're going through it.
Of course,
and what we went through.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Very moving.
Our hearts to yours, Danni.
Thank you.
Yeah, as John, who's your John? John is your father?
Yep.
R.I.P. John. I'm sure he's super, super proud of everything you're doing in this space, Danni.
He was very proud. Yeah,
and life in general.
Yeah, he was very proud of Ash too, and they were drinking buddies. Those two, they loved each other, and they would always get together and get out the whiskey, and Ash would play Dad songs and they'd sing together, and so it was a big change in that relationship when Ash stopped drinking. But Dad was always just so proud of him. He was so proud of Ash for stopping drinking, and I think that was one relationship Ash was nervous about change. That he was nervous that would change. Yep. And it didn't. They still sang songs together and all the rest of it. Just love that. Ash wasn't smashed.
Ash wasn't smashed.
Well, he's an AF drinks. Cheers to your dad.
Thank you. Yes, cheers, Johnny.
Johnny boy. So, Danni, our final question before we start wrapping it up. You speak about booze as being a sneaky bitch.
A sneaky bitch.
Yeah, it sneaks back in and you start romanticising about it. Yeah. Does that still happen for you? And do you still have fleeting moments where you're like, I could start drinking again. Tell us where you're at.
No.
Oh, that's so good.
No, and that's truly 100% honest, except for that time when during that grief process.
Mm-hmm.
But no, and I swear to you, it's because of all the internal work that I've done. So I would say to anyone that's on the journey, particularly after, like with you guys, like after a year, you can start to plateau a little bit. So just keeping on the input, like having great input, like good podcasts, great books, keep learning and keep expanding yourself. And the more you expand yourself, you don't get kind of stagnant. Mm-hmm. You have to keep feeding the tree, right, for the tree to keep growing. So you got to keep giving it good stuff. So honestly, I'm just so, and so is Ash, just so into self-improvement. Yeah. Like we just binged on, like we talked about this in the podcast, we wellness binged. And I just,
so good.
Yeah, and I've got, I've done lots and lots of courses, and I'm studying compassionate inquiry with Gabor Mate, who's an amazing trauma and addiction specialist. So I was lucky enough to get accepted into that course, and that's just been life-changing. And I'm just so grateful I'm grateful for the journey that's been before. I'm grateful for everything we went through, because it makes this side of it so sweet. And I never get bored. I can relate to you, Claire, what you said earlier about that kind of wanting to change your state sometimes. Early on in our sobriety, I had a friend up, and I was like, it was Lisa, actually, my drinking buddy friend, and I felt a bit boring. And this is, again, the people-pleasing thing I think that came up. So I got some liquid acid and I thought I'll just microdose some. And, of course, I didn't measure it properly, and I put about a teaspoon in, and I found out later a microdose is like 1/10 of a teaspoon. And I put it into soda water, and we drank it, and we got down to the beach, and it was awesome. We were having the best time, and I'm like, wow, we stopped looking at this tree. The tree was gorgeous. And of course, in true trash bag style, I said, let's have some more.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Always want more.
Yeah.
Let's have some more. So I did another teaspoon or maybe 2 into this thing, and it was a fucking shit show after that. Like, she wigged out completely. She got this like panic attacks, and it was just horrible. Like ants crawling over me. I remember getting into the shower, and it was just like I was in the shower, and then I was just like ants were coming out of the shower, and I was thinking, why did I do this? And I just kept thinking, well, it wasn't alcohol. But once a trash bag, always a trash bag, right? Like it didn't, I don't know.
I said that to Maso when she was entertaining the idea of edibles. I'm like, well, it's not booze. So, permission to go for it.
Well, sometimes edibles can be great, like in microdosing and things like that. I think, I'm in two minds about that. It depends on your journey. I think if you've been like a full-blown alcoholic, perhaps, rather than it just depends. And I noticed in myself, like I've had a bit of a journey with edibles. I don't mind them for therapeutic purposes as well, for psychological stuff, like Gabor Mate uses them a lot in that space. But with me, it's just like, it's never just one, it's never a microdose. It's more than that. So early on within that first year, it was like, nah, that's not going to happen either.
Yeah. Do you know, that's exactly what I found. And it was really interesting to think about, okay, well, if I try this little edible, just take the edge off once. And then I went, no, if I do that, then I'll take it more. It'll be earlier in the day and I'll just be back in that same cycle again. So just can't have it. And it was interesting to take that check on myself to go, nah, just a flat no. Because otherwise it just starts on the cycle again. If it's not that, it'll be something else. Like I'll always be chasing a high of some description. And by no means was I an addict or an alcoholic, but I love getting high. I love getting trash bag shit face. So, just remove it. Otherwise it just starts another cycle, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's more about what's this all about? And even when I did that acid, it was more, I think it was to please my friend. Right. And early on as well, I'd have some joints that had no tobacco in it. But I realized too, again, like I did that with my brother, and I got fucking, like, I greened out so bad.
Oh, worst ever.
The worst, and anxiety and all the rest of it. And I realized that was to please him. But he didn't ask me. Like, he wasn't, it was just me feeling like I owed it to him to get into some state with him.
Yeah.
And anyway, I talked to him, and he's just like, you don't have to do that because me, bub. You don't have to do that, bub. So sometimes I think is it really about us or is it about someone else, or what is it I'm not comfortable with that I need to kind of get out of it? It's an interesting thing, and it's not about a judgment call or anything like that. It's just like, what's really going on for me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I actually did a breathwork meditation last night, and it's I went on this whole journey. And I said to my friend who took the session, I'm like, it was like I was on drugs. Boom, that's where it's at, peeps. If you want a mood changer,
totally.
Work. I was like, this is insane. It was so cool.
Oh yeah, I'm doing my friend Sam Brown. She's doing a 21-day breath course. She's a breath.
I saw that. I missed it.
Oh, she's doing next one. She does them all the time. But I love it. And there's particular, because I've done quite a few of her courses now, and I know which sort of breath set she's doing, which is going to give you the head spin.
Oh yes, poppers.
and so and the other morning down the beach, it's like, yes, this is the one. And it's like you do this sort of pretty intense breathing, and then you do a big breath hold, and it's like, woo! And it's like, there it is.
Yes.
I'm going to sign up to her. Yeah, her next intake.
Yeah.
Oh, do. Yeah, she's brilliant. That's Sam Brown. She's a soulful, you have to put links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Soulful Lifestyle on Instagram. Yeah, she's awesome. Sam's amazing.
So good. Well, we're into our little quiz master. I asked just a couple of rapid fire questions. Are you ready for them? Nothing you have to think too hard about, just a little bit of fun. So you talk about being an oversharer, Danni. What did you have for breakfast?
I haven't had anything yet. I've had some tea because I've had gastro for the last 24 hours.
You poor thing. We so appreciate you turning up when you're feeling poorly. On a normal day, what would you have for breakfast though?
Usually eggs on toast.
How are you having your eggs?
I like them scrambled.
Scrambled. Nice.
And a vital greens.
Vital greens are good. Yes.
Yeah, that's my go-to every morning, first thing.
Love that. You love the beach and the ocean, and it's absolutely no disrespect to the ocean or the beach. But you did talk about, do you love sand or hate sand?
I fucking hate sand.
Yes.
I fucking hate it.
I hate it too. No, I love getting my feet. I love getting my feet in there, but it's the after show. It's in your toes, it's in your shoes, it's in your cotton gusset, it's everywhere. It's dragging.
It's over your floor when you come home.
It's just a pain in the ass. So I'm glad that you're with me on that. You don't mind it, Breeza?
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Everywhere.
I'm fine with it. Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Through the car.
Yeah, vacuum.
Up your crack.
Yeah, up your crack. Get in there.
Oh, windy sand day, no good.
Yeah, that's.
Ash and I actually had a sneaky route down on the beach once. I think he was playing Apollo Bay Music Festival, and we were drunk, and we went and had a quickie in the sand dunes, and I got the worst infection afterwards because I must. Yeah, that's
sand rash up your
ash.
Rash. Ash rash.
Yeah.
Ash sand rash.
Yeah, the ash rash.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you have a side of the bed? Do you or Ash have a side of the bed? If you're looking at the bed, which side are you? Or
I'm left, he's right.
Left. When he's away on tour, are you starfishing or are you still kicking back?
Nah, I'm still in the same spot.
Going on your gastro.
Normally the kids are in bed with me then too, so it's actually worse.
And the last question, which kind of works in well, I had this written down. I didn't know that you had gastro, but have you sneezed and farted at the same time?
Well,
you talked about shitting yourself at a festival.
No, but I've sneezed and wet myself.
Yeah.
Plenty of times. Bloody kids.
They were great. Thanks,
well done,
Danni.
Maso. Well done, Danni.
Thanks.
I don't remember, so I'm sure, yes. But heaps of phone calls. Like I remember going through my phone the next day and going through the call list and seeing like how long I'd called someone for. And I'd be so relieved if it was 10 seconds because that usually meant that it went to their message bank and I hung up. But if it was like 2 minutes or longer, I'd be like, oh, fuck, and be too embarrassed to call the person or speak to them. So I'd kind of avoid them until they contacted me next. That happened a lot, yeah.
Massive feels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It's time for the recommendation of the week.
Oh, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Writing that
100%.
down. Untethered Soul.
Have you guys read it?
No.
No, but I've heard about it.
Do.
All right. I'm
Life changer.
Full book nerd, Danny. So, yeah, I'm writing that down. Untethered Soul.
Yeah, amazing.
Brilliant.
I actually really enjoy when you share your books on your Instagram. I always write them down, and I've got a little thing in my notes in my phone, jot them down, add them to the list.
Yeah, I know there's so many on the list, but yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, and he's got a book also out now called Living Untethered, which is great as well. Got over there on my bed.
Awesome.
Thank you for those recos. God, you've been good.
So good.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I have to get you guys over onto mine.
Yeah. We'd love that.
I'm on for a natter. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being so generous with your time, especially when you're feeling unwell. And just, for sharing your journey with our listeners, Danny. It's so inspiring. You're so inspiring.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we've loved it. Mwah.
You feel better now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Danny. Bye.
This podcast is proudly produced by our audio engineer, music extraordinaire, Eric Ladd.
We love you, Eric.